Okay, so welcome everyone to Sacred Intimacy, workshop slash talk slash exploration. It's hard to really give a label to what this is. And so this is about love, right? This 75 minutes, it's only about love. It's about nothing else. And the reason why I do this sacred intimacy exchange, talk, or share is because I don't see it elsewhere. And I see it as a very big lack in our communities and our societies, in our world today. Yeah, that not many more people are talking about this. This is the only subject everybody should be talking about, if it's up to me to decide, because it's love. And no matter what we are doing, I think 24/7 we are always talking about love. Either we are somehow giving love, sharing what we have out of abundance, out of gratitude, or in different ways we are actually asking about love and wanting to be loved. I don't think in our lives there's any other conversation happening at any time, anywhere. At any time, anywhere. That's a big claim. It's always about love. Because if it's not about that, what is it about? What can it be about? To me, it's incredibly obvious that every single moment of our lives is only about love. And so, why am I so passionate about this or whatever? Or I talk like I know something, right? Um, because when I was 21, my first real relationship ended. And I got very deeply heartbroken because this relationship didn't go well. And I got really depressed at the end. And somehow, somewhere inside of me came a question that I didn't think about really. But let's say it came from the universe or it came from the deep self, a deep something inside that is different than our usual sense of self. And the question was, what is love? And so that question really became a central guiding principle in my life. And it became all consuming. And so the place that it led me first was, or the place that I went to find the answer, was spiritual practice. Very, very strong Buddhist path. Spiritual practice, 10-day silent retreats, this Vipassana, Goenka tradition. Who here has heard about Goenka tradition? 10-day silent retreats, they're all over the world. There's a center here less than 1 hour away. Yeah, 10-day silent retreats completely by donation. Only run by volunteers, no one's getting paid. So this is an incredibly beautiful tradition. And so I kept on going to these 10-day silent retreats. Once and twice, 3, 5, 10, 20, 25, and I kept on going. And at one point I left my life and I started living at one of these centers for 7 months. So I was there for 10-day courses. Out of the 10 courses, I was a student in 3 of them. And I was a volunteer in the kitchen for 7 of them. Even then, you meditate 3 hours a day. That's a very strong practice. To meditate 3 hours a day for up to 6 months, 7 months, it's really, really strong practice. So spiritual openings began to show me something about what love is and began to satisfy my seeking. But after very deep spiritual practice, when I came back to real life, working, relationships, owning a car, paying a rent, that kind of life, everyday living, not in the meditation center anymore, right? Not in the retreat or ashram, but really in engaged living. I found that even though I had a lot of spiritual realizations through this practice, and I was feeling extremely spacious in my mind, my emotional maturity, let's say, had not changed. That means I was still emotionally immature. And I was still struggling in my closest relationships with family members, with close friends, and most obviously in romantic relationships. So I was already studying psychology. At this time, I was studying my master's degree in counseling, and I had to go into my own healing. So not only spiritual practice about, well, pretty much anyone can go into a 10-day course and finish it. It's possible. But to actually remember the humanity of my partner, or to remember our own humanity in the middle of a very heated argument with our romantic partner. Whoa, that's the difficult thing. And it's really, really difficult. That's exactly the reason why today we have what? More than 50% divorce rate? The other 50% would have been divorced a long time ago if they felt the freedom to do so. So what I've been noticing also as a maturing man, I'm turning 40 at the end of the year. So first half of life is done. Right? First half of life is over. What have I learned? I've learned that our society sucks. Right? I've learned that the love that we see from Hollywood is toxic beyond measure, like really, really toxic. What we see in magazines and TV shows and movies and this and that, it's what not to do. So not only that we don't have good role models, not only that we're not learning how to love and all the things, but we are learning exactly the opposite. And we are learning the opposite every moment because we are being bombarded by the opposite everywhere. Because love has to serve consumerism, just like everything else. Because this world is completely based on consumerism. I have to sell or buy continuously. We don't have any other social organization available on earth today. That's how primitive we still are in a lot of ways. So love also has to serve that. And love has lost its sacredness because it's become a commodity. Either I'm trying to buy it or sell it. I'm trying to manipulate, or I'm trying to validate myself by my relationship. We are commodifying relationships, ourselves, sex, love. So sacredness is gone. That's why when I wanted to come up with a label, with a title for this workshop, for this talk, I just knew that the word sacred had to be there. Because what I see in the world, the last 20 years I've been looking inside and into society very, very deeply. What I see is that the real nourishment for the soul, another word for the soul could be the heart. The real nourishment for the heart is not there. There is no source for it, unfortunately. Yeah. Who has had similar realizations so far? That there is something quite not aligned with society. Something's a little lacking. Something is not really, right? Yeah. So I was a teenager when I started feeling this. But it made me feel very confused because I tried to understand it. I tried to understand it with my intellect. And the more I analyzed, the more confused I was. And so starting at age 15 until 21, I had a lot of confusion that only got bigger and bigger and bigger. Because I was trying to understand it. I was trying to find a solution through the reasoning, through the intellect. And now, 20 years later, all I know, if I know anything at all, is that life is not a problem to be fixed, right? Our emotions are not problems to be fixed. Our traumas are not problems to be fixed. We are not a problem. We are a human being. We are not a problem. And if I'm not a problem, and if I can really embody that, automatically in romantic relationship, I don't treat my partner as a problem. Because if I treat my partner as a problem, that's a real problem, right? The relationship is not going to last for very long. Or if I treat my own emotions as a problem and I'm trying to get rid of them, wow, that's the definition of suffering. If I treat my partner's emotions as a problem and I try to shut her down, I make her feel bad for experiencing certain different things, then she's not going to feel ever safe She will never want to say anything to me. She will never want to open up to me. So I'm just going to take a pause here. Any comments or questions so far about all this? Because really, like, I don't know where this conversation goes each time. I don't remember what I say a minute ago or 2 minutes ago. It's just happening. Yeah. If any comments or questions come, even from something from 5 minutes ago, you can ask it. Did you have something? No? Okay.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
What do you think about day-to-day dating life? Because it's changed so much these days.
In what way do you find that it has changed?
Well, so I've been in a long relationship for 6.5 years, and before starting that relationship, Tinder was a thing, but I've never gone on that. And when I was single, it was like a whole new spectrum of online dating. But everything goes so fast. We don't take time to get to know each other very well.
And there's such an illusion of abundance. I think it's an illusion, right? I really believe it's an illusion of abundance.
But it's so
because
hard.
It's so easy to just in 10 minutes you can see 100 pictures, right? I think it creates an illusion.
It does. That makes it hard, dating life these days.
Yeah, and it gives a lot of justifications also to avoidant people. People who have avoidant attachment styles, it gives them a lot of justification. It's like, oh, there's so many people available.
But
well, on one hand, yes, it is true.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, well, to connect with someone is valuable. It's not to be dismissed. It's not to be like, we can work on it a little bit instead of going to the next person because this one.
But isn't that also created nowadays? That avoidant attachment styles and...
Yeah, I think our attention span is getting shorter, right? Because we are so stimulated. In every chance I get, I turn off my phone. I leave it at home or whatever, Yeah, every chance I get, I go away from this. Yeah, and like these might seem like little things, but I don't have any of my notifications, like only WhatsApp, for example. Like these are certain things we can do at least to save ourselves, right, from the constant ping, 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 ping. Yeah, we need more space in our lives, I think, to daydream, to just let the mind, to just uninterrupted moments.
But that also starts at a young age. I think children these days don't get the room that often anymore to daydream.
Yeah, and all we can do, really all we can do in our own lives, we can recognize that we have a choice. And then we can live like that. Yeah. But in terms of dating, I mean, it's not easy, but there's also a lot of incredible people out there. And likely they are also thinking the way that you do. So it's a matter of kind of finding them. They might have the same complaints about, these things that you might have. Yeah. Yeah, I think it comes down to finding our tribe. And that can happen at a meditation retreat. It can happen at a studio like this. It can happen through yoga or some kind of workshop. It's continuing to be who we are and be social. And eventually like-minded people find each other. That's what I feel. Yeah.
And when you said about earlier, you don't treat the emotions of the partner
as a problem. Yes.
Because I find that yes, I do sometimes treat my own emotions as a problem, but also if my partner is having very heavy emotions, that really influences me. And I would like to work on them, but I'm not capable of. So it's like I would like to give space, but I cannot. So by retreating back and giving him the feeling that I'm not working on them. So I think
it's a capacity that develops. I found those capacities in me through healing work. So I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a somatic therapist, also a meditation teacher, but I combine also trauma healing and attachment healing. I work with individuals and couples. I've been doing this for 10 years. And our own personal healing is the most important thing. And these capacities, they deepen and they get stronger and, how can I say, more easily accessible through our own personal healing. And also spiritual practice combined. So psychology and spirituality combined. Yeah. Because you have this capacity, but it can be developed more.
Do you need to work on your personal development first or your personal healing before?
I think before, during, after.
Okay, so always.
It's our task. You know, the quicker we begin, the easier life becomes. Yeah. And so at one point, like, I had quite a journey of coming in terms with the fact that I have healing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't want to accept that. But the moment that we do, we find that committing fully to our own healing is the ultimate shortcut in life, is the ultimate shortcut. There's no better shortcut than that. To finally see, I'm wounded, just like anybody else. And I have to go and do this work. Yeah, that's the ultimate shortcut. Because before this moment comes, we do all kinds of dancing around this truth. We do this a little bit, that, we do crystals and chakras and Reiki and nana. It's endless. And people waste decades in New Age spirituality without getting anywhere. Not only decades, but also tens of thousands of dollars. Because these things are also fucking expensive. Yeah, I've met a lot of people like this. Yeah. And there are a lot of profound gifts of psychology, especially trauma healing. And if a close friend of mine came to me and asked, hey, I'm struggling this and that, I would say, start working with somebody. And I have nothing else to say. Start working with a psychotherapist and go as deeply as possible. Even when couples come to me to work on the relationships, I say to them, yes, let's do some couples work. Let's do it. I'll be very happy doing it. But unless both of you individually are fully committed to your own healing, individually, that means can you own your pain? Can you own your emotions? Because a lot of couples who come to couples therapy, they bring their partner to couples therapy, even if they might not say that. They are actually dragging their partner to couples therapy. Sometimes they're both doing that, hoping that the other one will finally see that they are messed up, right? But the real thing is, can I see myself? Can I see that sometimes I act in ways that are immature because of my own wounding? And I don't have to feel ashamed about that because it's human. It's profoundly human.
This is not a never-ending story.
Sorry?
Of the long of our life, we heal.
Healing, yeah.
So it's not necessary. Now I'm healed. I'm waiting for my partner.
No,
It's not.
I don't think there's an end line.
Yes, it's never-ending
No.
story.
There's no cosmic finish line.
Of course.
Yeah, and I don't think it's supposed to end.
No.
So do you think there is love forever, like in a partner, possible?
Love with the same partner,
Yeah.
like a lifelong relationship.
Yeah.
Do I think that's possible? I think that's
Yeah, it's
possible.
possible, but also
Yeah.
in a healthy way. If you're
I think it's possible only in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Yes, because otherwise we might call it relationship, but there's nobody relating. Right? In unhealthy relationships, we're not really relating. We're actually shut down, numb. We're actually isolating ourselves. We might still sleep in the same bed. We might still live in the same house. But there's no real relationship. Relationship means, to me, is that we get to meet each other. Not only about lifestyle and worldview and all that compatibility, but we are meeting each other more often than not. And in the vision of sacred intimacy, then, we are creating a relationship where we are meeting each other more and more consistently. That means I am consistently feeling connected to myself and to my partner. And she's feeling connected with herself and with me. that to me would be the definition of relationship. Yeah.
They can also be connected with multiple partners.
Not my girlfriend.
Because now actually describing
Well,
like monogamy. There's also other forms of relationships.
Yes. At one point, let me tell you about. At one point, when I understood, at least the way that I experience, right? It's always I'm talking about the way I see it. Once I understood what sacred intimacy is for me, it became crystal clear that it could not be with multiple partners. Like beyond any doubt, it became so crystal clear because of what it requires from us, and it requires everything. You know, I used to work only with men the first few years of this work that I do. And at one point I worked with veterans in Canada. Soldiers, male soldiers who came from war. And in Iraq, Afghanistan, different places. And so many of them said to me, Cenk, this healing that you're helping me do, this work that we're doing as a group and also individual sessions and all that, they would come and they would stay at this private health center for 1 month at least. Most of them stayed longer. More and more they started saying to me and admitting to each other that healing is more difficult than fighting in the army. It's that difficult. Mm-hmm. Because being human and wanting to live consciously, it's difficult. It really is. It's one of the most difficult things on earth, to live life consciously. And no one's doing it. That's why a lot of people aren't doing that. And that's why there is, suicide is rampant and all kinds of addictions and depression and anxiety, right? It's quite rare, I think, not that I think, that I know from my own life. It's so rare to meet a very genuinely happy person. It's also very rare to meet a very genuinely happy couple. Who would agree? Yeah, genuinely happy couples are so rare. Yeah. And every time that I find one and I stop them or ask them at a cafe or whatever, the more that I open up with them about what I do, usually the answer is that they had to work on it. They all had to work on it. Really work on it. Yeah. Because we are also conditioned, and the conditioning of society can feel really heavy. And sometimes it can feel like we don't know anything other than that. And in some ways it's actually true. We have taken in the conditioning so deeply. So to decondition ourselves is a big thing. It really is. And it's really sacred too. And so in sacred intimacy, in this kind of very beautiful relationship vision that we're talking about now, it is possible to do that healing together. Yeah, so to be on this journey of healing and awakening and finding out what love is, not intellectually, but here, we can have an ally, we can have a life partner who is just as dedicated as we are in walking the path of healing and love, and healing in love. Yeah. So it's a very spiritual thing. Emotions are a part of it. It's also very physical because emotions are energies in the body. Yeah. And it's also very existential and very spiritual. And I don't think there is any other area of our lives other than very intimate long-term partnership where all the different dimensions of our humanity, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, existential, all the things, emotional, are actually functioning at the same time, are actually functioning all together. In fact, they have to function all together in intimate relationship, because the closer we get to someone, the more difficult the relationship becomes. And then we need the resourcing of, let's say, a guide. Maybe I'm working with somebody, or maybe I'm part of a men's group, or maybe I come to this kind of workshop once a week to remember all this. Or maybe I also find resource in my spiritual practice, because spirituality, in other words, universal energy, or God, or spirit, is the biggest resource we can have. Because spirit is by definition not personal. It's beyond me. It includes us, but it's beyond us. So in our very deep healing, this kind of work, we can have spirit or universal energy on our side, in our team, like an ally. That's what I have found in my almost 20 years now meditation practice. Because when we close our eyes and let the body soften and just stay with the breath, at one point everything becomes really quiet because we're actually not doing anything. And we're not getting lost in our minds either. We're letting the mind be or do whatever it does. And sometimes what happens to me after 10 minutes or 15 minutes is I experience this thing that I started calling point zero. And point zero lives inside, but it's not here. It's not in the mind because it has nothing to do with thinking, right? Thinking is conditioning. Conditioning is society. This point zero has nothing to do with that, but it has everything to do with the innocence that we are born with, our true essence, our true beauty. And at that point zero, everything stops. The mind is not needed. There's simply being. Maybe you've heard about this word being, right? To be, with B capital. I am. So in that place, the sense of I am is everywhere. It's not only even here. It's not like there is something like a soul that lives in this body. Somehow there's a resident or something. But it's like that sense of I am is a sense of being awake, being conscious. And then when we open our eyes from that place, we see the same awakeness everywhere. And what that does for Cenk, for this individual here, is that in the mind, suddenly there is so much space. And in the body, there's a lot of softening. When the body softens through just relaxation, emotions can move more because I'm no longer contracting around the emotions that I don't like. So in these ways, spiritual practice can become an incredible resource as an ally, as a supportive force in our psychological healing and in our trauma healing. A lot of people who have been sexually abused or who have come from war or something happened to them, or they've been abandoned early in life, they find once they add spiritual or they connect with their spirituality, or let's say they go to the church every Sunday for 2 hours, not for a sermon or anything, that just in whatever way that you connect with the sacred, with the universal, that's the right way, whatever it might be for you. Yeah, I have a Turkish background as well as a Jewish heritage, but I love churches. Whenever I go to a church, I sit down, I close my eyes, and my mind becomes very quiet, and I get connected with something there. The same thing happens maybe with a very close friend when we're just talking about something, or in nature, or in a silent retreat. Yeah. Any comments or questions so far? Okay. So sacred intimacy, yeah. That's okay.
Kind of hard to put it in words, but if you connect to your true self, so how you say you do it, prayer in church or meeting up with friends, that maybe.
Yeah.
But if you do it like in church, like, is it unconditional? Like, do you need to? Like,
I think
give
it's
something back?
only
Or
about
is
you
it-
and universal energy.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like, do you need to give something back to the universe, or is it unconditional? Like, and maybe I can't really explain, but like,
Hmm.
I don't know. If someone else,
Well, sometimes it depends, let's say I'm struggling with something in my life, and then I go to a church or wherever else, right? And I sit down. I might say, guide me. I might just say, guide me. That's a surrender, like it's like a prayer. Guide me. And then I close my eyes. So what I'm already giving myself. So you talked about giving something. We give ourselves. Yeah. That's the biggest offering.
And it's actually you that's also giving back. It's actually the same.
Yeah, because there's no separation. Yes, there's no separation. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And more the sense of separation can begin to dissolve. Yeah, because we are spirit. Yeah. So what is sacred intimacy for you?
I thought the notion of being a happy couple, it's like you can't expect to be a happy person all the time.
Yeah.
So it's not, it would make sense that you're not a happy couple all the time, but you can be an intimate couple all the time,
Yeah.
a connected couple all the time.
Yes.
But even the happiest person, they're not happy 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I think connected is so key. Connected. Yeah, because we go through, like, life is full of horrible things too, right? So when we're going through horrible things, to act happy would be fake. But we would like to feel connected. Yeah, so we're going through difficult times together. Well, to me, that's sacred intimacy, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Because being in a long-term committed relationship means, among a lot of other incredible things, it also means that my romantic partner will be there when my parents die. And when her parents die, I will be there. Well, there's no happy in that. But hopefully we can have connection. Right? Hopefully we can let each other in also during those difficult times. Because the male conditioning is what? Men's conditioning in here is shut down, go numb, act like everything's fine. So if I'm going through a difficult time and I'm shutting down, not letting her in, we are not in a relationship in that moment. We are not really relationship. So can I be vulnerable? Right? Huge. We connect through the heart. And I connect with my heart when I'm vulnerable. Isn't that incredible? For me, for my girlfriend to have access to my heart, I have to be connected with my heart, right? If I'm not connected with my heart, how can somebody else feel my heart? It's nearly impossible. They might have to be some kind of spiritual master, and maybe they might feel it. But if I'm not connected with my own heart, someone else cannot see it. And my connection with my heart, that's the experience of being vulnerable. Isn't that incredible? Being vulnerable as a requirement for love. That means if I'm in touch with the fact that I'm a human being and not a robot, that I'm a human being and not a soldier to be sent to my death in the army, for example, if I'm not objectifying myself and I can actually see my own humanity, that means I'm in touch with my vulnerability. Only then I become capable of not only loving, but also receiving someone's love. Isn't that incredible? I think that's so beautiful. Yeah. It's like a trick from the universe. Open to yourself first. Stay open to yourself. If you want to receive other people's love, see that you are lovable. See that your emotions are not mistakes. See that there is no error in the system. That there's nothing wrong with you. See that, feel that. And then you're going to be able to receive other people's love because they're continuously trying to give. But if I'm not in touch with my own heart, with my own humanity, the bridge is not there. The bridge between the inside and the outside is not there. Does that make sense? Yeah?
But it's so hard because your ego is getting in the way. right?
Let's explain ego without using that word. Well, how would you explain it?
So, like, if you
Yeah.
open yourself up and being vulnerable,
Yes.
it can feel like a risk you're taking.
Risk.
Yes.
So fear.
Yes.
Fear.
Fear of rejection,
Uh-huh.
fear of receiving that love when you are vulnerable. So that's the mind thing.
Fear. And fear is contraction, right? Fear is like this snail going into its shell. Yeah. Fear. Yeah. Fear is the first emotion we feel. Yeah. Before we're capable of any other emotion, we feel afraid. And fear is not what the mind says that fear is. Fear is a contraction. Fear is an existential no. No, and with the no, I'm not going towards it. With the no, I want to go away. That's the experience of fear. And so that means there is something in me that maybe feels overwhelmed or not quite ready for it. Yeah. And comes healing. Yeah. And then comes self-compassion also. Because a lot of this kind of fear goes all the way back into our childhood with our first experiences of love or lack of love or rejection or abandonment. And so we come now to the wounded child in us. And we all have a wounded child in us. And so at one point in my huge exploration of everything inside spirituality, trauma, all that, I encountered the little boy in me, the wounded little child. And I had to really look at him and really be with him and stay with him. And I learned that I had to become the parent to this little boy, the parent he never had, the parent that is reliable, the parent that is consistent, the parent that is present, emotionally available, compassionate. So this is self-parenting. Huge. It's a huge part of our healing journey. Massive. So that internally, that means I'm creating a space of love and tenderness and safety for my own wounding. And our own wounding always feels developmentally younger than us. It's a younger part of us, psychologically speaking. And so if I'm not in touch with this part of me, if I'm not aware of this part of me is going to sabotage my relationships. Hence, the state of the world today. Not only in romantic relationship, by the way, in politics, in education system, everywhere. Even despite our best intentions, we are also sabotaging. Why? Because there are certain things in us that we are not aware of. That's the shadow. I'm in love with shadow work, and everything I do can be considered shadow work. But shadow work in the sense that I have a shadow that I cannot see. For each person, it's the same. You have something about you, a part of you, different emotions, whatever, conditioning, different patterns. They remain unconscious. And those unconscious patterns actually end up sabotaging your relationships. But usually we're not aware. It's a really strange place to be because I'm not even aware that I'm doing it. Let me give you an example. Let's say I really want to be social. I just want a lot more friends. Maybe I just moved into a new town or whatever. But every time I go into a new group of people, I create an argument. I start arguing with somebody and suddenly I'm yelling or whatever. And then I go home justifying, oh, they're such stupid people. I didn't like them anyway. I'm better off alone. But deep down, I'm still craving intimacy. I still want friendships. But I just sabotaged it. And then I justify the sabotage. Well, they were not my people anyway. They're stupid. They deserve everything I told them. What the hell am I doing? That means there is conflictual energies inside. One wants, the other one puts an obstacle. Another thing, let's say in a romantic relationship, I have deep desire to be in a romantic relationship with someone long-term committed, but maybe I don't know how to listen. Huge thing to learn. Can I make space for what my partner has to say? Maybe I don't listen. maybe I sabotage the relationship through not learning to listen. And maybe people have told me that. And maybe I'm being stubborn and I'm just resisting and resisting and resisting. So this is sabotage. Yeah. So we have patterns that we're not aware of. That's kind of the bad news. The good news is that if we give relationship a chance, the romantic relationship is, I don't know how to call it, but it's a big awakener. Maybe we can use the word awakener. Romantic relationship has been showing me everything I didn't want to say about myself. Everything. Everything that I didn't want to face. But the result of that is, of course, very uncomfortable, but very unpleasant. But in the end, the result of that is also humility. And humility is freedom. Humility means, yes, I don't know everything. Yes, I'm not right. And even in a conversation with a romantic partner, it's not even important who's right or who's wrong. Like, can we humble ourselves to a degree where we are no longer trying to fight against our romantic partner? We're not doing this. Like, can we get to that point where we are no longer me-centered, me against you? It's not easy, by the way. It takes a lot of work to outgrow or leave behind this developmental stage that says, I'm right. That says, I know the truth. Listen to me now. That's self-righteousness, that stubbornness. It's not always easy to go beyond that, but it's so important. Because if I'm fighting against my partner, it becomes a power game. It's a power struggle, right? If that continues, that's the beginning of the end of the relationship. But we can still fight. We can still have like intense energy and we can be passionate, but we can fight for the relationship. But that fight is not me-centered, it's we-centered. I'm saying something because it's important for us, for our relationship. And then we are speaking vulnerably. We're not guarded. When we are fighting against our partner, we're like, we are guarded. We're out to get them. We're out to prove something. Yeah. Who has ever experienced this? Right? And then 2 days later, or maybe 3 hours later, we're like, oh my God, like we wasted so much time and energy and we feel worse than how we felt before. We feel less connected because we had a fight against each other. So, anything else about sacred intimacy? Any other? Yeah.
I said it doesn't require necessitate just more relationship with God or everyone.
Relationship with ourselves, yeah, with the universe. Yeah, but there's nothing like a relationship with a partner to show us everything that we would rather not see. Yeah.
But don't you also have friends who showing you that mirror and make
Yeah.
you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's not only in romantic
Oh, it's not-
relationships.
it's not
also
only-
friendships and work relationships.
Oh yeah,
and-
but the way that it can happen in a romantic relationship is very unique.
Why is that?
Because we don't have sex with our friends.
Yeah, okay.
That's the short. That's the short answer.
Experience with intimacy, friendship.
Yes, but sexual energy is not only about sex,
Okay.
and sexual energy is an extremely powerful energy. And a lot of our conditioning and wounding, we also try to live out through sex. So when there is an emotional and sexual relationship, our entire being is implicated. It's not easy to compartmentalize. So it's not easy to kind of say, well, I have this friend, but he's one among 10. And if something's not working with this friend, I'll just call the other one. Well, in a committed relationship, especially if the commitment went to a certain degree, there's no fucking escape. You're in it. And the person lives with you. You know, the person, like, there's something about it that is so unique that there's no escape. It's like right here. You have to face it. Because I'm going to see her again during dinner or the next morning because she's going to be right next to me when I open my eyes in the morning. There's no escape. to actually live with someone or create a life with someone. I think that's a very unique experience. In extremely rare scenarios, a very close friend can become that. In extremely rare scenarios. Let's say there is an intentional community, and in the same house you live with 3, 4, 5 people. That's a container, and that can get really heated. That can also become an awakening. But it needs to be like the consistency of it is, you know. Yeah, but yet still I would say the thing is, awakening is possible just walking down the street as well, or just trying to keep a job, just trying to live as responsibly, as maturely as possible. So awakening and healing is possible 24/7, no matter what we do. But there is something, the way that I've seen, there's something very specific about sacred intimacy, romantic, sexual, emotional relationship, especially as the commitment deepens. And the moment that it becomes like, okay, we are life partners and we're just doing this, we're really going into this amazing thing that could be a lifelong partnership, or at least that intention being there, then the fact that there are no plan Bs create a kind of vulnerability that I don't think can be easily compared to a lot of other things out there.
Can it also be created by trauma?
Trauma?
Yeah. So, for example,
Trauma has to heal for this to happen.
because I'm an identical twin, and my twin is so different in relationships.
Yeah.
And throughout her trauma, she wants to make this relationship work no matter what.
She wants to what?
This relationship she's having right now, she's now together for 11 years, she wants to make this work.
It's like unhealthy commitment. Yeah, that would be
There's
unhealthy.
no plan B. Also from his side.
That would be an addictive kind of attachment pattern. But in sacred intimacy, we're not talking about addiction.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds more like she's clinging.
Yeah.
Right.
And he also.
So
He is also
codependency in that case. Yeah.
Live together.
Yeah. A lot of relationships are very codependent. Yeah. Codependency, I wouldn't call that. See, every relationship has a potential for waking us up. But I wouldn't call codependency sacred intimacy. For sacred intimacy to happen, we need to outgrow codependency to at least to a degree that is consistent enough that we can be established somewhere beyond fear, because codependency is fear-based. And sacred intimacy is it becomes available at a place where we are no longer functioning from fear. It's beyond fear, because it's beyond the inner child. Yeah, inner child is where the fear comes.
So do you think when the old couples don't make sex anymore, is that why they divorce?
Well, there is a disconnection, right? And disconnection, the way disconnection shows in the bedroom is that there is no sex. But disconnection comes before that. Disconnection is the deeper problem. In the bedroom, it shows itself as they're not having sex.
Like
The place to fix, the place to address is not the fact that they're not having sex, is why are they feeling disconnected?
because I think anatomically, when you're old, you think you don't have like the same.
Sex drive?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Yeah.
so even if you eventually you don't make sex with your partner, maybe it's just because your body don't need it.
Sure.
You know?
Well, you're talking about like a very old.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you know how to get rid of this cookie and
Yeah, codependency, addictive attachment, how to get rid of it? Yes, the question is the same. You know, this question, I'm going to rephrase the question, okay? To also give you an answer through that. The question is the same as this. Tell me how I can get rid of the child in me. Because it's the child that is the child in us is so hungry for connection. Because of times from in our childhood where we didn't have it. We have unmet needs. To be wanted, someone to say they're proud of us or whatever. And these unmet needs, they can be seen by us. So when I see my own unmet needs, well, that's healing. And there can be a lot of crying in that too, because there's a lot of sadness in there. Maybe loneliness is a part of that. Maybe we feel very lonely. And then from that loneliness, we crave connection. And of course, anything that we crave, that's unhealthy way of going about it, right? Yeah. Because if I crave and if I go into dating through that craving, first of all, I'm not going to enjoy it that much. Even if I get the craving subdued in small moments. And the other person is going to also not enjoy it because of the energy is like this, always trying to grasp. So there's one energy, the inner child, so hungry for something, clings, right? And then when I cling, then I suffocate my partner because I don't, I need you, I'm nothing without you, I'll die without you, all of that. So this is like feeling really desperate. But there's also another attachment pattern that says, I don't need you. Like a bit like this, I don't need you. No, I'm not available on Saturday. That's also an attachment pattern. And that could be just as unhealthy. Because in that, I'm shut down. In fact, I'm pushing the other person away. Right? So it's like shut down, push away. The first one is cling and suffocate. Right? It's like the mission is cling, suffocate, shut down, push away. But what is not happening in both sides? Healthy connection is not happening. And without healthy connection, how can there be intimacy? How can there be healthy intimacy? It's impossible. The one who clings is trying to rush everything. We want to feel close very quickly. We're not honoring the fact that it takes time. I want to feel close very quickly because I'm afraid of my own loneliness. And the other one is the one who wants to shut down and push away. They get overwhelmed when someone comes close. So that's why they want more space. But for as long as they're functioning from that place, no amount of space will ever be enough. Because the real space that the child in us is looking for is us. The child in me is looking for me. When the child is trying to cling, the child actually is looking for me. I'm the one who has to be there for the child to finally feel safe and to relax, to find that I'm home for him. And the other one, the push away, the space that this person is looking for, our own spacious, compassionate awareness is the only thing that can heal that wound. That wound that says, connection is not safe. Vulnerability is not safe. So one of them is trying to get vulnerable so quickly so they can feel close. The other one is avoiding vulnerability at all costs. Both are the child in us. And so when we look at relationships out there in the world, all we see is the child in us trying to get something. But the moment that we activate the adult that we are, we become online as the mature adult, everything changes. So the whole work that I do with people, healing work, trauma therapy, all of this, somatic stuff, including spiritual practice, is about getting established in the adult presence that we are. It's only about that. And through that, healing happens on its own. Because the child in me needs me as the space of healing. I am the space in which the child in me is healing. So all the work that I've been doing with my teachers and mentors and all the trainings, all the things, what all that gave me, if anything, it's this capacity to come back to the adult in me more and more quickly and more consistently, so that the adult is online instead of the little child in me taking over my life, right? Yeah. And so the child in us is really worth paying attention to, really. And inner child work these days, gets very popular. It's the hip thing to do. But inner child work is actually extremely profound. So much more profound than we think. I think to me is as profound as enlightenment. Enlightenment of the Buddha. Healing is as important, sacred, and profound as spiritual enlightenment. Because we have a psychological nature as well. We are not only spirit, we also have emotions, we're human beings. We have some healing to do. Yeah. Any comments or questions so far? You look very comfortable. That's great. I'm glad. Yeah.
You say being vulnerable
Vulnerable, yeah.
makes you susceptible to hurt.
It's risky, yeah. But it's also our humanity. As a human being, we are vulnerable. Yeah? Yeah. To feel anything at all, we need to be in touch with our vulnerability. Because we feel joy through that place. And gratitude and love. Sorry?
Gratitude and love and all the positive.
All of it. We feel.
The negative as well.
Sorry?
And also all the negative as well.
Well, there's nothing is negative. It's just unpleasant. Yeah, unpleasant, uncomfortable. But the part of us that says that's uncomfortable is conditioned. To our true self, it's what is. For the sky, everything is weather. You see?
But the way to come in, the door needs to be open.
Yeah, and that openness is vulnerability. And if that door is closed, we don't actually have the experience of being alive truly. Yeah. And usually that door is shut because of fear. Trauma and fear together. That's why I've been really loving my work. It's hard for me to call it work, but what I create spaces like these for people to have these conversations, to be healing together. Because healing is a relational process. It has to happen together. It has to happen in community, in groups. I love doing retreats, 1-day retreats, 2 or 3-day retreats. I work with 8 to 10 people in a group, and we go very deep. So we get wounded in relationship, and the healing also happens through relationship. And I think there's something very beautiful about that. We are not supposed to live alone, love alone, which is impossible, or even heal alone. It's not even built into the system, the possibility of it, because we are completely interdependent, even if we don't want to see that sometimes, because seeing that sometimes is too scary. But we are always interdependent. Yeah, completely interdependent. We belong to each other. I really love the movie Cloud Atlas. Who has seen this movie? Cloud Atlas? Yeah. By the makers of The Matrix. Yeah. And at the end of the movie, they say this: we belong to each other. There's something about staying relational and being social that is literally the core of what it means to be human. It's in our design to come together like this. Any other comments or questions so far? Yeah.